Okay, so here's a kind of an odd comparison video. It's come about because I've got my GH4 and I've got my A7s, and I've got a real mix, real spread of different lenses for both cameras. Quite a few Canon for my Sony with a Metabones adapter, and quite a few native lenses for my Lumix, plus real mix of different things. And I recently got hold of the Canon 70-200 2.8 version 2 lens, which is an amazing lens by all accounts. And previous to that, my best decent long lens with image stabilization in it for video was the sort of the kit lens for the GH4, which is the 14-140, which is not an amazing lens. It's rubbish in low light, but it is pretty sharp, and it has image stabilization, so it's pretty good for long video stuff. Anyway, so I thought I'd quickly put both cameras together, kind of bolt them together onto the Sony on top of the GH4 cage, and then just go out and film a bunch of stuff, at the longest reach, just to get my head around what's going to be best for action sport stuff, for sort of kite surfing and surfing. And the results are, kind of interesting. They kind of almost, in terms of length, it's quite, actually, there's not much in it between the 140 on the GH4 and the 200 on the Sony. If you put the APS-C mode on the Sony, that gives you a little bit of a crop in, obviously, a little bit more length. If you're filming in 4K on the GH4, you can then crop in, 200% onto that. So you can get a bit further on the GH4, definitely, with this setup at 140. But if you're using a 4K and then scaling that down for a 1080 work project without cropping into it, it's very similar actually. So it's not as different as you'd think. So the first thing that's I've noticed looking back at this footage is that the image stabilization in the GH4, which previously I thought was okay, looks absolutely terrible compared to the Canon lens. It looks really bad. I mean, it was very windy today. I was kite surfing just before I did this little test, and it was very, very blowy. So that's hitting the camera and giving it sort of a constant judder, which the 14-140 Lumix lens is really, really struggling with. And the other strange thing about it's a bit skittish when you move the camera. There's kind of like an odd delay where it refines its sort of middle ground and then kind of settles down again. So at its longest reach is what I'm using this for here. The 14-140 is really struggling with sort of wind shake. I've not noticed it, a hell of a lot before, but I guess it's just compared to that Canon lens. It can't compete. The image stabilization in that Canon lens is fantastic. This was a very blowy, shaky day, and it's hitting that long lens on the side there, and there's a large surface area to kind of catch the wind. So that's my results. I'll show you a few different sort of crop ins so you can see the detail difference and the sharpness. I wasn't using ND filters or anything, so everything's at odd shutter speed. I think it was 1600 for most of this on the shutter speed, and then the ISO was all at 200, and then I was messing around with the aperture, trying to get the aperture the same. So I was trying to get the settings the same between the two different cameras, depending on the exposure for each one. Anyway, so there you go, guys. That's my findings from this test today. It's a little bit an odd test, like I say, but I think the best scenario for me is to get a Metabones speed booster for my GH4 and then stick that Canon lens on the GH4. That's going to give me my internal 4K and the long reach, etc, etc. So that's probably the best bet, but I don't have a speed booster for my GH4 yet, so I will for now use the Canon lens on the A7s for my long stuff, and then slowly sort of working out a fantastic mix and match of different lenses for these two different cameras, and every time I get a new one, it's like it shows up the faults of some of the older lenses that I had, but yeah, we're getting there. I'm slowly getting a good spread of good lenses for both cameras, and that can kind of deal with every scenario. Small light lenses to go on the nebula for both, very wide lenses for both, and then now we're looking at longer lenses for both as well. So Anyway, a bit of an odd test, but I thought it might be useful. I'll leave a bunch of clips up on the screen here so you can sort of compare the two lenses and the two cameras.